Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. It is Shelby here today, and I am joined by a special guest, Nurse Coach Brian. I just gave you that title, but I'm joined with a fellow nurse coach, Brian, and I'm so excited to get to share Brian's story with all of you today, and is just really coming into his own, becoming wildly successful in private practice, and has gone through our program, Make the Leap. And as we were, we teach you guys to be connected to your people, to follow up, to check in. And that's exactly what I've been doing with Brian for the past about 12 months. And he dropped this really wonderful celebration in our chat that he had crossed the six-figure mark in his business. So I'm really excited to paint the nitty-gritty story of how that all came to be. But Brian, we're so glad to have you. Thanks for playing here.
Thank you, Shelby. Great to be here.
Yeah. Well, you want to kick us off here and just give us maybe the highlights reel of your journey into finding nurse coaching, and then who you work with would be a great place to start.
Yeah, so my name is Brian Bost. I am in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been a nurse coach now for, I guess, coming up on 2 years. Work with folks struggling with drugs and alcohol, and my sort of foray working with you all was the Make the Leap program that you offer, and that was instrumental in my success. So
yeah, I'm excited. I'm also excited too. I was telling Brian before we hit record of our nurse coach community is sensitive to operating within our license. We don't want to do anything wrong, and I feel like Brian is the clientele that you serve is by definition, I think probably in a crisis of some sort, right? If they're hiring you.
Sure.
And yeah. And so I want to ask you lots of questions about how you navigate all of that. But then too, Brian, he's a nurse that jumped into our Make the Leap program and did not go through nurse coaching certification, which I think is really, really cool. Of course, I'm biased towards certification and I think it's helpful. But for Brian in particular, he didn't need it to get started. And so if we can rewind kind of to that point in your life, Brian, where you learned about nurse coaching, you learned about us, what was your decision-making process of, okay, I want to support people differently. Do I need certification? Do I don't? Or do I not?
Yeah, I was working at a detox center here in Atlanta, and long story short, I didn't feel like I was really moving the needle and affecting people's lives like I really wanted to. That's the reason why I changed my career from the corporate world to nursing, was to really help people. And sobriety is part of my story. Recovery is a part of my story. And so, I was working in a detox center and just didn't really feel fulfilled. And so I started thinking about, well, what are some other things outside of the box that I can do with my RN license besides working at a medical facility, right? And so I started just researching, and I found, this nurse somebody in nursing school said, "Hey, Brian, have you heard of nurse coaching?" I was like, "What the heck is that?" Right. So I Googled it and started looking into it, and wow, this is a whole new area that I can pursue, coaching people around health and wellness, and maybe even coaching people around recovery, right? Since that's a part of my story. And so I looked at certification and I thought, well, I don't really want to do, I don't want to commit to 6 or 8 months of this. Is there anything else that's sort of a hybrid that I could do? And I found Make the Leap.
Yeah.
With you all. Yeah. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna make the leap, and I'm gonna give it a go. And it was instrumental in my success, in giving me the confidence and the belief that I can do this.
Yeah, totally. And to be nitty gritty and like really particular about it, whenever you were working in the detox center before you found nurse coaching, what was that role like? Did it like lend to coaching and you didn't know it? Was it already like that kind of setting to where you were supporting people? But I'm also hearing that it like wasn't a great fit
Well,
for you.
yeah. So yeah, unless you've worked in a detox center, you don't really fully understand kind of what goes
Yeah.
on there. Basically, what I was doing is I was passing out meds,
Okay.
consulting with doctors on someone's care, but the actual one-on-one patient care was pretty limited, right?
Gotcha.
I would give them their meds, they would go off and they would do their groups for the day. They'd come
Mm,
back in the afternoon, I'd give them more meds. And so, I had some interaction with them, but it really, like I said, it wasn't really moving the needle. I wasn't really, affecting significant change in their life.
yeah. Yeah.
And so that's when I just thought, there's got to be something more I can do here, right? Not to mention working at a detox center, you don't exactly make a heck of a lot of money. And
Yeah.
so, that wasn't in line with the lifestyle that I wanted to create for myself, where I could work when I want, where I want, and affect how much money I make based on my effort, right? So yeah, that's kind of all that. That's how that transpired.
Yeah. Okay, that's helpful to understand. So coaching really was like kind of new
Yeah,
for you then.
totally.
Okay. Which makes this story even cooler to tell of like how you just jumped in is so rad. Okay, so you found Make the Leap. I remember we had a call to where I was like, Brian, you need to go to certification. And you're like, and then you talked to Amy Frame, who also helped me like co-facilitate Make the Leap. And she messaged me and she's like, Shelby, I don't know. I don't know that Brian needs cert. Like, can we just let him try? And I was like, okay, like I trust your instinct. If you see something I don't, I'm open to that. So you join us and Make the Leap, and I'm curious, like, one, what was helpful about that space, and two, any like unprecedented challenges that you navigated or like things you didn't see coming during that time.
Well, so what happened with Make the Leap? As I mentioned before, I think as I got into the program, it dawned on me that that this is possible, right? That
Hmm.
it gave me the confidence and the belief that I could make this leap, that I could
Yeah.
do this, and then the community, there were obviously, a dozen or so other nurses there. So that community was very helpful. Yeah. In challenges, I mean, you know, but it still was scary as heck. I mean, I could remember the first client that I signed after, actually it was during Make the Leap. And I remember being terrified of asking for $1,400 for 3 months of coaching.
Yeah.
Terrified,
Yeah.
and that was the challenge, was still, really talking about money, and what I was gonna ask somebody to invest in themselves was scary, because I thought, is somebody really gonna pay me for this? This is crazy, like, what the heck do I know?
Yeah. I remember a few conversations you and I had over Messenger, and you're just like, is this sustainable? Like, will people really pay this? I'm like, well, people are already paying you. So, yes, you've already proven your point here.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that the community felt good. It kind of makes it less, or it makes it more achievable when all of you are working towards the same goal over and over and over again. And I'm sure that other people in the group, Brian, were able to look at you and be like, well, if it's possible for Brian, it's also possible for me. So it's this
yeah,
really nice little symphony we have going on.
yeah. Plus, I was the only
So,
guy, I think, in the cohort. So it's always being a male nurse, right? Back to
yeah,
our Meet the Parents days.
yeah,
So it's still, yeah. I mean, I'm a minority, right? And so that's always a little different. But I've learned to embrace it, and then in some ways, I think it can really be beneficial.
totally,
Yeah. So
totally.
yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Laura and I've been saying for a long time that like we are rooting for the male nurse coaches because oh my gosh, does our community need it so deeply. So it's fun to watch you win. It's fun to watch you win.
yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah. And so okay, so we're in Make the Leap. We're quivering in our boots over charging $1,400. But how many signed clients did you get in Make the Leap?
Oh, I think I was at 3 by the end of Make the Leap. Yeah,
Perfect.
I
Perfect.
did four. I
Yeah.
charged 1,400 for the first one, and then I was, maybe I'll move it up a little bit. So then I went to 1,800, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, screw it, and I'm going to do 3,500 for 3 months. And it was, from, and in Make the Leap, we learned exactly how to set up
Yeah.
that conversation, how to address any pushback, right? And that was really, really helpful because I did get some pushback, right?
Yeah. What was your potential client's flavor of resistance that you helped them with?
It was, oh wow, $1,800. That's I don't really have that in my budget, you know.
Mm,
First thing I thought of, well, yeah, nurse coaching is not something any of us have budgeted, you know. But yeah, it was really, it just gave me the confidence going through that I could talk through that conversation with somebody, Yeah.
awesome. Talk to me about the jump from 1500 to 3500 because I know there are nurse coaches listening right now and they're like, they're like clutching their pearls right now, Brian, of like, that is such a it's a big leap. Usually people chip at that gap a few $100s at a time. So I'm curious, did you start experiencing less client resistance when you upped your price?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in fact, I just signed a client for 7,500 for 3 months, and that was, I probably could have asked for more, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot about how you just set yourself up. I market myself to the higher socioeconomic crowd of folks, so it's easier to ask for more of more of an investment.
Yeah.
But I think just if you have confidence and you present yourself in a certain way, then I think people see that, and I think they're um, glad to invest in themselves if they really feel like I can help them.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Yeah, that's a little treat. Hang on, we'll get to the part where Brian is charging $7,500 and we'll fill in the gaps between now and then. But I have also experienced that as well, to where whenever you kind of like hit your sweet spot in your pricing, there's almost no resistance at all from potential clients. And so that means that you're doing quite a bit of things correctly, Brian, which is really cool. Okay, so we have our three paid clients, and then talk to me, because I know your trajectory wasn't like sunshine and rainbows the whole time. I can recall a couple more messages to where you're like, what is going on? How do I connect with people? How do I find people even after, like right after Make the Leap? So I'm curious, you did Make the Leap in what, May? What about, yeah, like Christmas time, holidays of 2024? What was going on in
So
your
this is
business?
what happened. This is crazy. This thing dog leg to the left, right? I was doing coaching last fall, and all of a sudden I started getting phone calls from people asking me to go into their home and do in-home detox work,
Yeah.
right? Because they knew I was a certified addiction nurse. They knew I worked in a detox center. Why not just be able to offer that in someone's home and give them the privacy and the discretion that they may be looking for? And
Yeah.
so that's where my business really started taking off, is when they started asking me to come in and do the detox work. And then I would coach them after that, right?
Mhm.
Because detox is not treatment. So, yeah, that's when things really, really started to take off. So, Christmas holidays is actually a really busy time for the addiction world, right? Because that's when people are usually they're at home for the holidays, and families like, yeah, I think you have a problem and you need to get
Yeah.
some help. So a lot of those phone calls start coming in.
Yeah. And how did they find you, Brian? Was it on your website?
No, 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 no. I was making connections with therapists and psychiatrists and other treatment centers and letting them
Mm.
know, hey, I can do coaching, I can do in-home detox. And so I started getting phone calls from them. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have a really excellent website, Brian. I've looked at it. It's very good. But I want everybody to hear that Brian was still connecting and inviting with
Oh,
the
yeah.
people, like getting in front of his people, getting referrals, building connections. Like, what a win.
Yeah,
That's
the
awesome.
website doesn't do me really, and we talked about this in Make the Leap, right? You can totally do this without a website.
Yeah.
The only reason why I threw up a website is because I think when you go after that higher socioeconomic individual, they are going to look at things like a website, right?
Sure.
So at least have
Yeah.
something there,
Yeah.
but
Totally.
totally
Totally.
not necessary. Yeah, it was about going out and making those connections and organically marketing myself.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So for all of you listening, I want to like highlight the trend here that Brian has a niche that he found after many years of working with this niche through the detox center and then kind of doubling down on it again in Make the Leap. Was there ever a point in time, Brian, where you tried to do like more health and wellness coaching and then came back to detox? Can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, initially that's what I was going to be focused on, was just general health and wellness. But recovery being a part of my story, it was just an easy, I was like, wait a minute, why can't I help other people struggling with this from a coaching perspective?
Yeah,
Right.
totally. Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
And then that, of course, then morphed from recovery coaching to the in-home detox work. So and we talked about this in Make the Leap. You have no idea where this thing might go.
Hmm.
Just, you have no idea. I mean, you could, like I said, I kind of dog-legged to the left. I had no anticipation that would happen. I
Yeah,
just wanted to coach people around health and wellness, and then recovery. So
yeah,
yeah, I think I would encourage anybody listening, you go into it with hopes and aspirations, but understand that you may find success in some area that you aren't even expecting.
yeah. It's such good advice, such good advice. And I think a lot of our community does do the like more generalist health and wellness coaching, and then we end up like volleyballing back to our story and like what we resonate with and what we're passionate about. And I mean, technically, Brian, you are still very much doing health and wellness coaching,
Very
like
much.
this still falls under that umbrella. And even I don't want to make light of detox, and I also don't have any experience as a detox nurse whatsoever. But I also hear this from our nurse coaches who want to do like maybe plant medicine ceremonies or get certified in psychedelics or things to where like you're in this really intense ceremony of sorts with people when they're going through detox. And I think it's so ethical to then offer coaching on the tail end of that.
For sure.
And so rather than like leaving people hanging or like, what do I do now? Like they already have so much trust and rapport built with you through that process. Like how cool, how cool is that? So I'm interested, what do your packages look like these days of, the in-home detox and then like how does coaching blend? How do you have that conversation?
Yeah, usually, an in-home detox will be between $1,500 and $2,500 a day, and that's 24/7 in-home one-on-one nurse
Yeah,
care, right?
yeah,
They're either by, myself goes in, or I also partner with some other nurses who, we try to match up gender, right? If it's a female
yeah,
going for detox, I'd rather a female nurse be with them. So, but sometimes we'll do detox just on an outpatient basis, where we go during the day for a few hours and make sure that they're safe, their vitals are checked, we're assessing them. That's usually if they have a supportive home environment.
yeah.
So that's kind of the package for that. And then, around day 3, usually detoxes last 5 to 7 days on average. And around day 3, when the fog clears just a little bit, is when I start talking to them about, okay, what's next here? Because detox is
Hmm.
just getting the toxins out of your body. What are you going to do to change your life going forward, right? From a
Yeah,
lifestyle perspective. And so that's when I'll start talking to them about, one option is coaching, but there are plenty of other options. There are great treatment centers and great treatment programs here in Atlanta that they can also participate in. So,
yeah,
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 usually
yeah,
around day 3 is when I'll start having that conversation with them.
yeah. Amazing. Do you ever feel weird about that conversation or does it just flow?
Oh, the coaching? Oh, it's
Yeah.
so seamless because, like you said, the trust has been built, and
Hmm.
the connection. And you got to think. I mean, I had a conversation with them when they were in a really deep, dark place, and then since then, we're now 3 days into this detox, and they're starting to feel a little bit better. And you know, they see me for 3 straight days. We've had a lot of conversations. They get to know me as a human being. I get to know them. So that connection and trust starts to build. And it's such a seamless conversation to have.
Yeah.
In fact, most times, I mean, I've done this now probably 15 times. And I think 14 of the 15 want to do the coaching with me. Now, but here's the thing. That's not always appropriate. Some people need a higher level of care than that.
Sure.
because my coaching is, once a week for an hour, and then it's daily check-ins. But some people need a lot more than that, right? They really do need to go to an inpatient facility after detox, or at least get involved in some kind of, day treatment, right? That's very structured. And so I'll often have to just say, hey, you know what? I'd be happy to talk to you about coaching after you did something more intensive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Ooh.
saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What's your gut check on that? I mean, you've been in this world for so long, I'm sure it's pretty intuitive, but like, what are some markers that you're looking for of like, yeah, this person could fall into the coaching bucket, or they need to go have more structure than later?
Yeah. Great question. Motivation.
Mm,
How motivated are they for change? What sort of support do they have at home, family wise? How severe is their addiction? Right? So, all those things, I am assessing all those things during the time I'm getting to know them and during the first few days of detox. Somebody that's really motivated is going to be a potential coaching client. There's other people that are not as motivated and probably need to be in a facility where they can't leave for a
yeah.
period of time. Supportive family is also important, like I said. So yeah, so those are some of the factors that I'm assessing, and then it just comes down to gut. Am I really the best treatment for them?
Hmm.
Is coaching really the best thing for them, or are they going to do better in a higher level of care?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that probably feels so integrous on your part and deepens the trust for folks to swing back around for coaching when they're more stable as well. Yeah. I've had dozens of conversations of nurse coaches who want to go private practice, and I will say, hey, based on what you have going on here, I think that therapy for like 3 to 6 months could be a better fit so that we can get the foundation under you before we go and try and birth this wild, crazy dream. It's usually, yeah, you're like the third person who said that to me this month, and I appreciate your honesty. And they do come back. They like go do the inner work, and then they come back, and we're able to like look forward. Um, that's so cool. How rad. Can you believe this is your life?
No, I mean, a year ago when I started to make the leap, I was, I was, you know, it was hard. It was a hard thing to jump into. It was not easy. And to look back, I mean, I'm so grateful and blessed, and I'm just looking forward to the future. Our plans are, I'm looking for investors now to come in and
Yeah.
invest to do a really deep marketing and branding strategy, and move this thing from just local here in Atlanta to regional, and then nationwide, and having a team of nurses. So yeah, I'm just so grateful, and Make the Leap was a huge part of the genesis of this, just in terms of
Yeah,
me being mentally and emotionally, you know, believing in myself.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can tell you this, without Make the Leap, I don't think I would have gotten into this. I don't.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. That's
And
so
look,
cool.
it was $4,000 for Make the Leap, and that was a lot of money for me. When go from making $34 an hour in a detox center, I got to write a check or put a 4,000 on a credit card. But I knew that if I didn't do that, that I would always be left wondering, what if, you know, and that I didn't want to deal with that regret. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna go for it, put everything I've got into this, and it's worked out.
Hmm. Oh, you remind me and Laura as you talk to where you're like, I cannot live with the regret of not trying. Like
Yeah.
that is such a good motivator to try really, really hard. And I mean, you've alluded that it hasn't been like it was challenging. The investment was challenging. The work was challenging. It was confusing. We had no idea that this is where I was going to land. And it's better than we had cooked up in the beginning. But you kind of have to like just start working on it to let it take form, to let it take life, to form those connections. Like all of that was built one layer at a time. Yeah, so cool, so cool. And if you guys are hearing Brian now being like, I'm looking for investors, I want a marketing plan, like that will make sense for Brian this year. We talk about this a lot on the podcast of investing in the right things at the right time. Brian came to me before Make the Leap and was like, I want to do in-home detox. I want an investor. I want a 50-page marketing branding plan or whatever. I would have told him like, okay, cool. Go do the in-home detox first, get experience because in order to hold that, to hold a team, to hold a nationwide corporation, Brian's going to get to go through some more up levels along the way to like have capacity to hold all of that, which we'll have you back in a couple of years and you can give the people an update on how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now you know this because you've built your company. Now there are new concerns and new fears and new worries and all these things about building this business that I have no idea what's ahead of me, but it's going to be great because I'm just going to take it one day at a time and enjoy the process and try to help as many people as I can. Because there's an
Yeah.
awful lot of people struggling right now with depression and anxiety, and they are boozing and they're using drugs at a rate that has never been seen before, and it's a symptom of our society, I think. Not to get too deep into that, but there's a lot of struggling people out there right now. And so the
Yeah.
work that we're doing is really, really gratifying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, we could probably do a whole other podcast about how the world is just numbing out at large, but our people get it. They know, they understand. Okay, my friend. Well, this is wonderful. And I'm curious if, as we land the plane here, what advice would you give to Brian in May of 2024? If you could go back and give him a zinger, what would it be?
Mm. Yeah, I just keep going back to belief. I just didn't have that belief in myself that I could make this work outside of the confines of a hospital. You know, that a nurse could really go into private practice and help people and make good money. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that belief, and so if I could go back and say, to my my younger self, yeah, just believe in yourself. And you know what, a big part of it, I keep going back to make the leap, but I couldn't have done it by myself. So having the faith that other people are going to be needed on my team to get me to where I want to go. you know uh, yeah, because in my mind I was thinking, well, I'm going to have to do this by myself. And no,
Yeah.
that's not true. There is your organization that was so helpful to me. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad you found us. How did you find us? In just your searching of nurse coaching, we popped up?
Man, you know what? There was another group that also does nurse coaching. I don't even remember the name of them, but I think I found them first, and then somehow through that
Yeah.
found you all. And I talked to them, and I talked to you all, and I started listening to your podcast, and
That's how it all begins.
I
Yep.
listened to 6, 8, 10 podcasts, and I was just like, I really dig these chicks, like they, but not just, I mean, I just very authentic, very genuine, truly wanting to help other people. I got that feeling, right, that I
Mm,
didn't get from the other organization. So that was enough for me.
beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm glad you found us, and it's a testament that like I tell people all the time that like your people will find you. If they're supposed to find you, they will find you no matter your marketing, no matter your branding, whether you have a website or not, like just how your people are finding you, Brian, you found us, and that's kind of like trusting in the mystery and the magic sometimes of business and connection and networking. And yeah, I'm just so excited. You're in our bubble, and we're super excited to keep cheering you on and see what happens next. Like, I'm sure it's bigger and grander and messier than we can even imagine right now.
Yeah, it's a beautiful mess is exactly what it is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for being in the hot seat with me today and sharing so generously about your journey. And we'll put all of your stuff in our show notes so that if someone needs you, they can find you or has a family member that could need you. And you're in Georgia still, right? That's where you're
Yep.
at?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. In
perfect.
Georgia. Yep.
And then I whenever Laura and I were first nurse coaches, there was like no resources on the horizon. Like it just felt like an empty desert. And over time, nurse coaches, we've built a small town in the middle of nowhere of just like, okay, Brian can be the detox guy and we're the business people and other people can do the somatic work and you're the
Uh,
energy healer and you're the boundaries person. Like we're building our little ecosystem here. So I love just that you're doing this work because you're obviously gifted at it and we can like leverage all of our power together.
yeah. To build on that, anybody that's listening to this, if they run across somebody that's struggling with drugs or alcohol and they don't know who to refer them to, have them
Yeah.
call me. I will talk to them. I will send them to the most appropriate level of care that I can. Yeah. And I have a lot of connections and a lot of resources to help these folks. Again, I'm doing this because this society of ours is really struggling with a lot of depression and anxiety and stress, and drugs and alcohol are unfortunately are a coping mechanism, unhealthy, of course, and a lot of people are relying on that. And I just want to be able to help them get out from under that.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Ooh, all right. Well, thank you again, Brian, and thank you to everyone tuning in. I would love to know your comments, what you think about this episode, if you feel inspired. I feel inspired, and I'm well beyond make the leap, but I'm like, yeah, Brian gets it. He's doing it. And so I hope our leapers that are listening right now that are in make the leap just find a lot of hope for their own journey. And we'll have you back, Brian. I feel like this we could do this like every like 18 months, and then you're gonna be like, you won't believe it. You won't believe it. Now we're here, but we're here for you along the way.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
All right, team. We will see you same time, same place next week. And yeah, let us know if what resonated for you. Find us in the Facebook group. Shoot us a message. I'll put all Brian's stuff down in the description. And we'll see you next time.